Hey everyone, welcome to LASquared, where all things New Jersey come to life. I'm Lisa Allen, here with my incredible pod partner, Laura Ali. And today we're speaking with two men who need no introduction, but we're going to introduce them anyway. Laura?
It's great to be with everybody on this wonderful, beautiful August day as summer winds down. Thanks for joining us. Our first guest joining us today has lived the Wall Street story from the ground up, literally. He started his career on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange back in 1988, when trading still meant shouting across the room and waving tickets in the air. From there, he spent over 2 decades on institutional trading desks, navigating markets through booms, busts, and everything in between. These days, he's taken all that experience and shifted gears to a more personal mission, working with families, individuals, and businesses at Edward Jones to help them build and protect their wealth. Please welcome Bob Competiello, a guy who knows markets from the chaos of the trading floor to the calm of the financial planning.
Yes, and thank you, Laura. Our next guest might look familiar to our audience. His story was featured in the hit movie The Big Short, where Hollywood turned his real life into box office history. But Vincent Daniel's impact goes far beyond the silver screen. He's now a partner at Seawolf Capital, and before that, he was a partner at Front Point Partners, where he co-founded the Front Point Financial Services Fund. In short, he spent his career in the center of the financial world. And today, he's here to give us the real scoop on the economy. No Hollywood script, just straight talk. So we really want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. It's an honor to have you both.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
It sure is.
And you're doing it in the middle of August when everybody's on break. That's even more.
Well, that's the beauty of the podcast, right?
I know. Well, I'm looking forward to our conversation today because it's been a roller coaster. I mean, if you look at the economy, if you fell asleep a year ago and you woke up today, you would have missed an entire lifetime of events happening, and you would be totally lost on what's going on in the world. I almost feel like we're binge living a Netflix series. How does everybody else feel about that?
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of, and it's kind of expected given the fact that we have quite an interesting administration that is very pro-growth, pro-centric, and as a result, and it's quite verbose. So it's kind of makes sense that the markets sort of jive with what we're seeing in many ways politically. So
yeah,
it definitely keeps us on our toes, no doubt about it.
Totally. I mean, there were days way back when, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the stock market would go up or down 400 points, and it was a big deal. Today, that's just a drop in the bucket. Like it's a nothing burger, right?
So it goes back and forth, right? Well, Trump will say one thing and the whole market shifts, right?
Yes.
What's your saying, Vincent? He's the straw in every glass. I heard you say that.
Laura, you've done your homework. Yes,
I know.
The line that I used it stuck, and I kept on using it. And
yeah, I love it.
The line that I use, and I believe it, is that he's the straw that stirs the drink. And so I spend a lot of time watching every word that he says. And we also have a saying as well, which is leave your political view. If you're going to play in the market, right, leave your political views at the door, whatever they are. It doesn't matter, and
right.
Because you need to be very objective when you're playing in markets. And the beautiful thing about playing in markets in the Trump administration is, for the most part, he does what he says he's going to do, right? So he's kind of an open book in terms of what his policies are and what he wants. You just have to listen and don't take him. I forget what the term is, but don't take him literally, but listen to the words and the direction that he's going. And if you do that, you could find some really interesting opportunities.
Cool advice.
That is cool. What is he saying or not saying that we are listening to?
Well, he said a lot this week, I feel like, right? He's starting the tariffs with India now. And that whole Cracker Barrel thing. I was reading that this morning. I was like obsessed with that story. I've never been to a Cracker Barrel, but
they changed the logo back. Right.
They changed the logo back. I know, because he criticized it. I was like, we are living in extraordinary times. So many times I think to myself, what a time to be alive. Do you guys agree?
I'll let Vince handle a lot of this, but I just think that, one of the things that we live with, and I think he touched on it, was that, we often say, don't play politics with your portfolio, right?
Mhm.
It's an important part of it. And I speak to clients about this all the time, right? Where it's the risk, the goal, the time frame of the client is just, it really does reign supreme, right? You have to be aware of things that are going on in the current world, right? You can't put your head in the sand, but we really do look at it from a timing perspective, a goal perspective, and a risk tolerance, risk capacity perspective. So yeah, I would like to, add to that, to what Vince said before about, separating the two.
Right.
You know what? And before we jump into the nuts and bolts, because I think Laura and I have a ton of economy questions. I'm curious, how did you guys meet, you and Vin?
Yeah, so it's actually a good story. So I was on a trading desk, and I happened to be going out one night, and it's the truth. A buddy that actually just retired, Lisa, and his retirement party was in our beautiful downtown. Believe it or not, not many people from that career get retirement parties, but this guy ran it out and probably did about 35 years. And I think Vin actually lost touch with him, right? As you left the business, right? We always say it's a lot to keep a friendship across two rivers, with Manhattan in the middle, right? So just, kind of normal life got in the way. But this particular gentleman lives one town over from where you and I live, and Laura, quite frankly. And he just came up to me about 15, maybe 8. It was after the GFC. No two ways about that. But it was before the movie as well, because I remember Vin was telling us about it. And he just said, you know what, you're a guy from the outer boroughs, and I got a guy that you just have to meet. And that was it. And he walked in with that New York Mets shirt, and it was love at first sight. What could I tell you?
That's awesome.
The bromance began.
Yes.
And we've been yakking about it, and that torture and everything that goes with that, and the love of the fan base, and the love of being tortured. I had him laughing a couple of weeks ago. My son was going crazy on them, and I said, Mike, with modern medicine, your life expectancy is 105. Look on the bright side. You have 81 more years of this. All right. More of it. And I'm sure Vincent has had the same conversation with his son and daughter as well.
The good news is that we separate ourselves in the winter, because I'm a sad Jets fan, and Bobby gets to follow the Giants. And I know their prospects haven't been that good lately, but when you look at the history, it's night and day. So in the winter, we still speak to each other, but we don't really speak all that much about. It's more of an objective perspective of football, not a very emotional night every night like last night was, which was a good one. But yes, avid sports fans, we both are.
That's awesome.
It really, it's funny. I mean, not to go off, but that's what podcasts do. It is funny to me how much being a baseball fan versus a football fan is, and then we'll steer it back to where you guys were. But it really is a tete-a-tete battle every night.
Yeah.
Football is that, right? It's that 4 hours. Get the chili going on the stove. Maybe invite some people over.
Yeah, it's like the cozy mood. Yeah,
I respect the guys who play this game, right? I don't know how they do it. Like I'm exhausted after last night, and they got to get up and do it again.
Yeah. But you guys are both on the same page with baseball. You're both Mets fans.
Raging.
Love it. Awesome.
It's the glow. It's the glow. It's our glow. Otherwise, it's two tolls, and I would never hang out with them.
So you're like, Bob, you're like a Mets fan, Jets fan, which is usually Giants, Yankees, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I'm Mets Giants, which is unusual.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry, Mets Giants. It's usually
Correct.
Giants, Yankees.
Yeah.
Correct.
I know. How does that happen? That's like a mixed.
It's funny because I used to get this question on Wall Street all the time when you go out with people, and there's a Brooklyn, Staten Island component to this, where I grew up, it was a lot of ex-Brooklyn, so they were all Dodger fans.
Yeah.
So there was no way they were going over to the pinstripes. So they kind of hung in purgatory for a few years, right? Then Bill Shea brought baseball back to the National League, and they jumped on. I mean, my father's 82 years old and still can't believe they left. He still thinks they're coming back, despite what, Vince?
That's
a $15 billion valuation. They're not coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the greatest economic moves of any sports franchise of all time, right? Was to go to the Dodgers, and now they're probably rivaling the Yankees in terms of value and for MLB franchises. It'd be probably pretty close. I assume the Yankees are still on top, but it'd be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've lived that growing up, right? My grandfather, my father, they were burned. I mean, they were burned. I mean, you know, all those there's tons of Netflix and HBO specials on that, right? That the borough was scorned, and they've never forgotten it. So the short answer to a long question is a lot of those fans turned into Met fans, and that's how we were. And my father was already a New York Giant football fan, so. But I grew up with a ton of those guys, tons, men and women that are Met Giants.
Now, Vincent, where do you live? Where in New Jersey are you?
I'm not in New Jersey.
You're not.
You have gotten a foreigner that probably would need a passport maybe to go where I'm going. I'm joking, of course. I live out in Long Island.
You do? I thought I read that you were a Jersey guy.
No, I'm not a Jersey guy. I was born and raised in Queens. So both of us are out of borough folk.
Awesome.
I still view myself as from Queens.
Yeah.
But I married a woman that lives in Syosset, and we now live here. And we joke around, as we said, 2 rivers is a lot. So we meet in the middle, which is in Manhattan. But no, I live out in Long Island.
Oh, good. Good for you.
Oh, smart man. The train runs better out of Long Island than it does New Jersey.
It's the only thing we kind of have over you, right? Our metro transit is a lot better. And I have a lot of friends who are from Jersey, and I always ask them, how do they go to work? And quite often we drive in, and it's like I cringe a little bit because we would never do that. Like, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people drive to Secaucus. It's really I would say the big lie for the New Jersey Transit out of Summit is it used to be direct, right? You would literally go from Summit to New York with no stops. But now the direct is diverts to Secaucus and then goes in. I'm like, so it's not really direct. And it takes a lot longer. And then obviously they're not putting the funding in and fixing the tracks in the way they need to. So what used to be about a 45-minute commute is now an hour and a half. Which is a shame because it's really the engine that drives our economy here, right? The train is what makes us desirable. So
you're floating your idea for your next podcast.
I know. I am.
I know. I was thinking the same thing, Bob. Like, we should do one on New Jersey Transit.
Yes.
That's a great point. So tell us, gentlemen, what are your thoughts on like as we near the end of 2025, right? 4 months and 1 week to go. What do you think is going to happen?
Is this me, Bobby?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So in some respects, the markets have moved up a lot since Liberation Day. And I think it's important for us to separate for the time being the markets and the economy. And as a result, the markets have done, I would argue, far better than the economy. And the markets are, if you just looked at the S&P 500, you would probably conclude, and maybe rightfully so, that we're in some form of an economic boom. I mean, this is the 3rd year in a row that we're up. The S&P's almost up 10% this year after last posting double digits 2 years ago. But when you go under the surface, right, and you go past, and the reason why that is the case is because the S&P is what I call cap weighted, right? Is that the largest names have significantly more influence than the smaller names in the S&P 500. And if you go past the top 20 and you actually just start looking at some of the names that are in there, they don't look as if the economy is all that great. From retailers to oil and gas companies, to chemical companies, to you name it, the charts don't look as if we're saying great economy. So one of the things that I think, and this is one of the reasons why I think President Trump is adamant about the statement I'm about to make, is in order for his policies to work, and not just him, almost every president for that matter, he needs rates to go lower, right? And that's why every day he's harping on the Federal Reserve. We could get into the Cook firing, but he, in order for his policies to work, rates need to come down. But that's a very difficult ask given the fact that our government spends so much money and there's so much demand. There's so much supply of Treasury paper. So this is why he's in a very big fight with the Federal Reserve to push for what he wants. And we could go deeper into that if you want. So over the next few months, I expect things to be pretty reasonably positive because I've come to learn that for the most part, in the near term, Trump gets what he wants, right? The longer term implications are an interesting conversation, but in the near term, I think he's going to get what he wants. And there's a lot of positive implications for that for the market, but maybe not necessarily in the top 20.
Yeah, you know what? I would like to go deeper in that because I mean, the positive is that if you bring down interest rates, then you know, it helps pay down the debt, right? Like there's financial positives to that. But on the flip side, there's also financial negatives because if you start undermining the Fed by overreach by a president, that also has its impact. And the market isn't stupid. So I guess I'm kind of curious which way the market would go. Are we going to capitalize on the positives of interest rates coming down, or could we land ourselves into a new environment where people aren't quite sure? They think the Fed is becoming more political and it'll respond accordingly.
I'm quite the cynic, as you will learn. Hold on one second. I apologize. I'm quite the cynic. I've always been of this perspective that the Fed has never been independent. That's kind of a facade for everyone. Now, I think, again, with all things Trump, it's more now explicit and out in the open, right? And he's much more forward than what a little bit of history. There was once a time where Lyndon Johnson strangled the Fed chairman in the Oval Office, begging him to lower rates. So this is not without precedent, right? And I don't see President Trump doing that. But I think my answer to your question, Lisa, is I think we get both. I think we get both. The market right now is addicted to lower rates and more liquidity to the market. And as a result, what that will also do is if he gets lower rates, that will improve on the margin industries like housing and commercial real estate and auto, which will, and those are the industries that have really suffered over the last year and a half. If you just look at markets, particularly the housing industry. But I think the long-term implications, Lisa, I think you're dead right. It's can we come back from what we just did? And there are negative implications, long-term negative implications to that gambit of explicitly interfering more with Fed independence than what we have seen in the past.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when you said that, like the auto industry has been negatively impacted for the year, I guess the question is, autos, and there are loans that are starting to default. There are small signs of cracks in our economy. Auto loans are less savings. The auto loans are defaulting. There's less savings. And even in the housing market, you guys, I've been looking at houses all across the country. And something that I haven't seen in 10 years is that the house prices, you'll have something listed and then you'll see 10,000 down, 50,000 down, 100,000 down. So I don't know what that impetus is. It feels a little 2007-esque where, back in 2007, you're sitting on the couch. And I remember thinking to myself, we had just gotten a loan for a townhome through Countrywide. And I was like, how is everybody paying for these expensive homes? They don't have two nickels to rub together, but yet they have these beautiful big homes and they're, there's bidding wars all over the place. So I do feel a little like we're 2007-esque in that the house prices are crazy. But now you're seeing across the country, less so in the East, but across the country, that some of these house prices are coming down. So can you touch upon what is happening over the last year that you see a dip in those industries? Is it temporary, or are we headed towards something bigger?
Bobby, you want me?
Yeah, sure. Hey, this is your area.
Is that a big question?
No, it's a huge question. And I think the big issue, the word that comes to mind when what you said is affordability, right? People are right now struggling with affordability in a lot of things, particularly big ticket items. And the biggest ticket item that we have is housing. So how do you solve for that, right? Well, there's two ways to solve for it. There's the hard way and the way that every administration, including the Trump administration, is trying to solve. The hard way is you let home prices get to a level where it's more affordable for people to buy. And Bobby and I talk about this all the time. This country is run for people who own stuff. It is not run for people who want to own stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably the best thing in the world for this country to have longer term is for home prices to decline 10, 15%.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe it would increase affordability for young people who are looking to buy a home. But that's
Right.
not the way we're going to solve this, right? Because that's, for whatever reason, our policymakers, and it doesn't matter, it's Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter, solve it a different way. And the way they solve it a different way is to try to lower your monthly payment. And how do you get to lower the monthly payment? You lower interest rates, right? So this is why, again, I was saying it is paramount for him to get rates lower. And what has caused all this? Well, let's go back to COVID, all right? Pre-COVID, rates were at zero, right? They didn't belong at zero, to be God honest with you. They didn't, right? Rates should never be zero. We could talk why, but they should never be zero. However, because of all of the policies that were infused in COVID, were very stimulative policies where people were cutting checks and the like. We had a bit of an inflation problem that to this day we still have, but it wasn't to the severity that we had it in post-COVID, but we had it. So the Fed had to raise, they had no choice. They had to raise rates by 500 basis points. And as a result, mortgage rates shot up, just like auto rates shot up. Just any rate you were being charged shot up. Interestingly enough, somehow, some way, miraculously, home prices continued to increase, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to happen. And as a result, we're sort of dealing with a champagne problem, whoever owns them hangover.
Right.
Prices are unaffordable and so what is happening across the country, I agree with you, Lisa, it is happening across the country. There's also additional defaults as a result of it. What's happening across the country is that we have an affordability problem, and we're correcting it through price. But I don't necessarily know if they're going to want to correct it through price, because there's a lot of negative short-term implications in doing so.
So there was during COVID, a big flux of people that were just moving out of the city and out to like where we are, like Summit, Chatham area, because they didn't need to be, they could work remotely, so they wanted space, I should say, right? I think that's why our prices of homes went through the roof around here. But like Lisa, I noticed that they're coming down too. But I don't want to date myself, but if you go back to like 2008, remember when they were offering everybody interest-only loans on their homes? I got suckered into one of those for a vacation home in somewhere in Florida. I never even went to it because it like was a disaster. But that was like the lure, and I wonder if that was part of the reason for the housing crisis back then, because people were getting suckered into that. You get an interest-only loan, your payment's low. Oh, but just save the money, on the side. But nobody really ever does that, right?
Yeah, I if I could just jump in, one thing Vin said that, one of the points that he touched on was maybe there was some ramifications that people didn't see coming, right? And he referenced housing not coming down when rates went up. And I think that goes, if I could just drag it back to what I said at the beginning if we could just pivot more from a planning perspective of that is why when we talk amongst our friends, our family, advisors, clients of that goal and time frame, getting it right for those unforeseen potholes, right? And I think, Vin, you would agree with that, right? That the timing and the goal and the time frame and the risk tolerance / risk capacity is so important for the potholes that are normally going to come around. I mean, they may be small, they may be national, right? They may be ones we remember forever. They may be ones that we don't remember, but they are all there. So, I mean, I know we're kind of having two conversations concurrently here, but that is kind of why, to me, that's the proof in the pudding of why we focus so much on risk goal and time frame.
Yeah.
And Laura, no one's dating themselves in 2007. I think we all
Laura, come on, 2000. That feels like 2 weeks ago.
I know you're going to say you bought a garden apartment in like 1981, and then I would have been with you. 2007.
Oh my God,
I'd love to date myself only back to 2007.
But I feel like nobody nowadays even knows what an interest only. Maybe I'm wrong, but that nobody even would know what that is, right?
They are less used.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why they are less used is because the banks don't necessarily offer them as much as they used to. But you are right. I mean, you're bringing me back to an interesting time in my life during the time of the big short. But what you said was one of the primary causes to what increased home prices above and beyond, because people looked at their monthly payments and their near-term monthly payments, which were so low. Why not buy a bigger home? Why not? And you know, if you have an optimistic perspective of yourself, you would just assume that home prices are going to appreciate, and that was kind of a false lie, right? That did not come to fruition at that time. So yeah, here's the good news: we're not as bad as what we were in 2007, 2008. The reason why I say that is, in addition to those issues that we just discussed, right? The banks were extremely thinly capitalized. They had very little capital to absorb any what-if blows, as Bobby was saying, in terms of risk planning and the like. And when shit hit the fan, so to speak, right, then all of a sudden the banks were in trouble. That's what caused the real cascading effect. Whereas the banks this day and age, as well as a more accommodating Federal Reserve to save them if they are in trouble, is there to save you. So it's not as dire as what it is. That doesn't mean home prices can't go down 5-10%. They can, right? And they might.
But there are some other signs to me, like that the economy isn't as great as it might be presented. Like down the shore, the boardwalks, they're like empty. Great Adventure, nobody's there. I was in Martha's Vineyard for a couple of weeks. Usually in August, it's so crowded you can't even get anywhere. Like the streets were free and clear. Like I feel like there's indications around us that people are having a much tougher time, like you said earlier, Vincent, with affordability than it might appear on what you read.
It's hysterical, Laura. And the fancy economists use a simple term called the K-shaped economy, right? So if Bobby and I didn't want to necessarily go to Citi Field and we went across the street, right, and went to the U.S. Open and just sat there for 10 hours, right, you would think the U.S. economy is thriving incredibly, right? Where
oh my God, you're so right.
They're ordering those fancy drinks for whatever it is, $15 to $25 and the like.
Yeah.
This is the difference, I think, in this economy, is that if you were on the right side of owning assets or owning a home, things are pretty damn good, right? And if you're on the upper tier, right, things are incredible, right? However, I think you are right, Laura, in that more and more people, the other side of the track, so to speak, life's getting more and more difficult for you. And inflation is a problem because cost of food is going up again, right? Everything costs more. The repairs on your cars cost more. Don't get me started with the insurance business, right? Like, and insurance premiums that everyone's paying more. So there's really a tale of two economies. And depending which way you look, we're either in a boom, a never-ending boom, or a never-ending recession.
You're totally right. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Great
if
point.
you had to pinpoint what's driving the inflation, what would you say it is?
Structural policies. And that's a I apologize. It's the first thing that came out of my head. And I said, Vinny, come on, this is going to take a long time to explain. But I think we have so many policies that structurally create inflation. And in that, as we have allowed companies to consolidate more and more and more and grow bigger and bigger with less competition, their pricing power increases and their moats increase, right? I think one of the biggest issues of inflation is a function of that fact, right? So, and that you don't solve that with interest rates, right? You don't solve that by raising rates 500 basis points, right? You just crash an economy. Whereas if you allow for more competition with companies, more supply of goods available, I think pricing would decline. But that doesn't seem to be the policy, again, of any administration, let alone the Trump administration.
What about the tariffs? I mean, do you think that when you look at the tariffs, and I feel like America has been taken advantage of, there is a part of me that I'm like, you know what? I'm glad he's fighting for America. But on the flip side, I feel like there's always that tension, right? The flip side of this is going to take some time to work through, and we're not going to see some of the ramifications for another year or so. What are your thoughts on the tariffs?
We've been taught in academia or economic circles or even Wall Street, the tariffs equal bad, right? Mm-hmm. And I will still subscribe to that. However, and when I think about our country, right, we spend way more than we should as a country, like hence the deficits that we have, hence the debt that we have, right? Someone's got to pay for that. The running joke we have all the time is there's no easy way out. Like austerity would be very difficult for people. We tried it for 3 months in the beginning part of the Trump administration, and the market vomited, right? On the thought of cutting government waste, government expenditures. So tariffs are a very interesting way of increasing the revenue streams to the U.S. government, right? While trying to bring all of our jobs back on shore. Now, that sounds great, right? I don't think that's the way it's going to work in the end. But my concern with tariffs is even if we get to a level where we have 10 to 15% tariffs across the board for all goods that are exported, right? Someone, trust me, someone is paying that tax. It's not like you can inject a 10% premium on the cost of goods and services and that it's going to be sunk. Someone's paying it, whether it's the companies overseas that are exporting, the companies here that are importing those goods, or the consumer. Like almost everything in life, it'll be all of the above. So if you ask me, one of the things that concerns me is I think the market is way too complacent on tariffs going forward as a policy. We're not factoring in the additional potential inflation. I think we're actually starting to see it right now as we speak. The inflation and the implications of that. So take back to my conversation about, I apologize. I know I'm being long-winded, but you got me going here. Right? Yeah. Take us to that conversation of we need lower rates. Well, how in the world do you lower rates if all of a sudden inflation is going to be rearing its ugly head 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now? Again, it's a very difficult problem to solve. So that I think is what's coming to a theater near us. I don't necessarily know in the next 3, 4 months, but assuming what I see, it's going to be a 2026 event. I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. So Vincent, if I may, what about, take us back again, back to the 2000s. Like what happened with the movie, The Big Short? Like, how did you get into that, or what role did you have, or tell us a good story about that.
Sure, I'll tell you a great story. So I'll try to tell you a great story. So just a little bit of history on my background. I was initially an accountant auditor, really didn't love it. Left the business, a fellow by the name of Steve Eisman, who was depicted in the book and the movie, hired me. And I covered, and we were what is called sell-side research. So we were selling research to mutual funds, hedge funds, and the like, and making recommendations. Our sector that we covered was the financial services sector. So that's a very long-winded way of saying the one place where the world was falling apart, I kind of had a PhD in. So if the world was falling apart in healthcare or in technology, don't come to me, go to 30, 40, 50 other people. But this is what I knew, and this is what I was doing, and I was actually doing it in the late 90s. So when it came to the housing crisis in 2005, 2006, I was the geek sitting in front of my computer, inputting data into these little Excel spreadsheets that was showing me that the underlying credit quality was going really bad, right? So we made bets on that, big bets on that, and it worked, thankfully. We felt bad while we were doing it. We actually went to DC trying to tell them you shouldn't be running the country this way. But
Really?
yeah. But unless you go to DC with a suitcase full of dollars and you go on the Acela train with a suitcase full of dollars, no one listens to you.
Yeah, get that.
So how the movie came about was after the whole investment, the trade and the like, Michael Lewis came running around looking for what he viewed as part two of Liar's Poker, right? And he stumbled on a good friend of mine, Meredith Whitney, I think a Jersey native, I think. And she pointed it towards us. So for me, imagine a kid from Queens, right? Who, I would love to say I read a lot, but I don't. But my favorite author was Michael Lewis.
Was who?
Michael Lewis, the guy who wrote.
Oh, yeah.
Coming to you, right? And saying, hey, I'm going to write a book about your story. I mean,
Oh my God. How cool is this?
and I knew that was my 15 minutes of fame. And
Yeah.
So going through The Big Short was exciting. It was invigorating, but it was a lot. As Bobby and I use the term, it was a lot, right? And it was very nerve-wracking. You saw the world potentially ending, knowing why it was going to end. And the last thing you wanted to do when you went to cocktail parties or barbecues is talk about it. It's the last thing you wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. Because, hey, Vinny, how's the market? Nope. Don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Mets. Let's talk about how much we hate the Yankees. Let's talk about the Giants and the Jets. I do not want to talk about this. Going through the making of the movie was just a ton of fun, right? Because you got
I bet
you got to hang out with people that you would never. I mean, I was face to face at the after party with Brad Pitt.
Oh my God! Wait, was that in New York or LA? Where were you?
They did it at the New York Public Library.
Cool.
And the hysterical thing is I kind of learned that even in Hollywood, there's a hierarchy of hierarchies, right?
Really?
Yeah. And so, and you would know that, like, you're walking around, and it was the coolest night of my life. I'm like, I'm not.
I bet.
Let me soak this in. And my partner at the time, Porter, and I in business said, we're never going to meet Brad Pitt again. This is our one shot. Yeah. Let's do it. There was a wall of people, right? A lot of women, as you can imagine.
I think your wife said the same thing, didn't they?
Yes. No, no, my wife was more into Gosling than Brad Pitt.
I'm with her on that.
The younger women were more into Gosling than Pitt, but so we had to literally get through the wall, which was like 3 layers deep, to get to him, just to say and shake his hand and thank him for making the production and all that, which was a lot of fun, right?
So cool. Was Jennifer Aniston with Brad Pitt there at the event? Were they together?
No, at that time of the event, he was still with Angelina Jolie. She wasn't there.
So he had left. Yeah.
And someone who's probably near and dear to both Bobby and I's hearts, 2 Attleboro Italian boys. Marissa Tomei did not make it, Bobby. Right. So of all the people that I wanted there, the one I forget about, people like, like, no, really good was Selena Gomez. Like, no, but Marissa Tomei was not there, and that's who I wanted to see.
I mean, Brooklyn and was in a Seinfeld. That's 2 for 2.
2 for 2.
Right. That's 2 for 2. You know, I love what you said. I mean, just to really go off the reservation, because it is so true. There's a hierarchy inside the hierarchy.
Yes.
Right. And it's funny. I think in every career there is that, right? There's the people that there's the, oh my God. And then they have people inside their career that they say it to. Yeah. So apparently we're learning that Brad Pitt is that person, right?
No, Brad Pitt was that guy. Whereas I went straight up. I was on a set that it was filmed, a large portion of it was filmed down in Louisiana, because that's where Brad Pitt's production company is, and that came out of the hurricanes. And it was after they were filming, I was watching Steve Carell, who played my boss, and
Yeah.
you're really nervous to walk up to these really well-known, famous people. But then I keep saying to myself, they're human just like you. Maybe not Brad Pitt, but they're human just like you. And he'll be thankful if you just say how good of a job he was doing. And I did. He looked exactly like my former boss. And I went up to Carell and I go, Steve.
Oh my God, really?
I wish I could tell you pointers as to what you need to do better, but you're absolutely nailing it. And he just looked up to me and goes, thank you so much. Right. And it was like pretty cool.
Did he meet your boss? Like, did he meet your boss to get that likeness, or was it just?
He had to.
He had to. That was my question.
Yeah.
Right? Laura, like Vincent, I mean, I can't remember who was the actor that played you, and did you sit with him to make sure that it was accurate? I mean, because when you say about approaching these guys, you're right. They're telling your story, which is really, they should be nervous to approach you.
Well, okay. So I joke around. I lucked out completely. And I was played by a guy who's now quite famous, Jeremy Strong, right? He's
Strong, from Succession.
From Succession. And he actually is bringing this back to Jersey. He was recently, and I forgot about that. They made a movie on Bruce Springsteen, right? And he played, Bobby, help me out, or anyone who's Bruce fan.
So
he played
I know the movie. I haven't seen it, so I don't know who he played. You're obviously talking about the one, Lisa, he's talking about the one, the guy from The Bear stars is Springsteen.
Jeremy, but that's a recent movie. You must be talking about an older movie, right?
No, I think this is a recent movie.
Yeah, he's talking about the one that
the recent movie.
The Bear. Yes. Right. Yeah, who do you think he plays? Is it Stevie Van Zandt?
No, Landau, the agent.
Got it. John Landau, who Springsteen references at every single concert he's ever played. That's his.
Correct. He played one. So, and I'll get into the question you had. The last time I saw Jeremy, he was doing a Broadway play, and I brought my family and particularly my daughter there, and we went backstage. He was cool enough to bring me backstage. And I always ask him, what are you doing next? And he goes, well, they're making a movie of Bruce Springsteen. And I don't know what made me say this, but I did. And I go, Jeremy, I love you. You're far cooler than I can ever be right now. But there ain't no way you can pull off Bruce Springsteen. No way, right? I go, you're not that.
That is too funny.
And he starts cracking up because, Vinny, you know me well. He goes, I'm playing the agent. And
oh my God, that's so funny.
And he goes, the guy from The Bear is playing Bruce Springsteen. I go, now that makes sense. Right? So I knew from jump Jeremy was going to be a star, or at least I felt from jump Jeremy was going to be a star, because he spent, like you asked, Lisa, he spent a lot of time with me, like lots. Like there was one time when, and he took care of me, right? And he was very protective of what he felt my image should be portrayed in a movie, because I could tell you, one of the things that happens is you sign away your quote life rights, right?
You sign away what?
Your life rights, right? Mm-hmm. Which means they could have made me a Martian, right? And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
So there was one scene in the movie that was a very hostile scene where we were yelling at the guy from Deutsche Bank. We were yelling at Ryan Gosling. And he calls me up or texts me at like 9, 10 o'clock and says, Vinny, we need to talk. He goes, I don't think you're being depicted correctly, right? And I go, okay, let's talk. I go, well, how am I being depicted? He goes, well, you know the scene when you're yelling at Deutsche Bank? I was like, I did that a lot, but yes, okay, fine. Well, in that scene, they kind of want to make you kind of a mob mafia guy and say, I'm going to pull out my gun and shoot you.
Oh.
And I was like, I'd never say that. He goes, I know. He goes, I need to work on what you did say. So we spent about 45 minutes going through the whole scene in and of itself, the background, why I was angry, what I would say when I was angry. And after I hung up the phone, I go, if this guy doesn't make it, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, then he's doing Succession and various other movies. Because he's known as a quote, a method actor. And he spends a lot of time with his characters to get to know who they are.
I mean, how cool is it that he invited your whole family backstage? I remember that play. I wanted to go to it. It was like a few months ago, right?
Yeah. And what I was upset about, my wife will kill me on this one. What I was upset about is what I really wanted to do was take a selfie with Michael Imperiore, because he was the other one that.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Getting back to Bobby and I's upbringing, I love you, Jeremy. You played me, but Spider is in this as well, right? And Christopher, and I need a selfie of him.
Yeah.
We had to wait. Chris is gonna kill me, but this is funny. We had to wait on the line because she had to go to the bathroom. So it was about 10, 15 minutes. And while I saw Michael backstage, he was with a bunch of people. So I said, okay, you're here for your daughter. Go see Jeremy.
Yeah.
Michael. By the time I went to go back to see Michael, he was gone. Right. And I go, really, Chris? You couldn't hold it in.
You had to pee then.
From Mike.
Bummer.
Well, it happens for reasons.
Yeah.
Who knows?
You wanted the Spider angle more for the Queen's angle, not the Sopranos angle.
I agree.
I love it.
To me, he'll always be Spider. So
I mean, Goodfellas is there's a lot of Queens.
Yes.
So do you have him in your cell phone? Do you have him in your cell phone? Are you guys friendly?
I try not to bother him.
Yeah.
But he is nice. Like if I send him a text, he sends it back to me.
Wow, that's so nice. I love that.
When he was in the musical, I told him I was going, and he goes, "You got to come backstage," right? And he also knows my daughter's in theater and the like. So he was very receptive. Yes.
Where is she studying theater?
At Boston Conservatory. Yes. So she's going back. She's going back Sunday. Yes.
She's going back Sunday. My youngest son is studying theater at Pace University.
Pace is a great school.
Yeah, he loves it. What year is she in?
She's a junior.
My son too. So
yes.
I wonder if she knows his best friend, Charlie. I bet they do, but we could talk about that another time.
We'll
that is pretty cool though. So is she studying musical theater or regular?
Musical theater.
Musical theater, because she's at the conservatory, of course. That's the question. Yeah. That's exciting. That's why I love all these acting questions, because I'm so into it because of my son.
Yes.
Every time I call Laura, she's like, I'm at such and such play. Can I call you back? I'm at such and such audition. Can I call you back? I'm like, yeah.
I know.
So that's fun. So I guess, Bob, what Hollywood story are they going to write for you?
Well, I was an extra in Wall Street too. If you watch the movie for about a second, you'll see I actually have it frozen. Yes.
I didn't know that, Bob.
Yeah. Yes. You know what? They used our trading floor for the movie.
Wow. Cool.
All right. This is kind of a fun question, Vincent. If you didn't have The Big Short, if you weren't part of that whole production, The Big Short, is there a different story you would want Hollywood to tell about your life?
No. I mean, I'm trying to think of. I was depicted so well. I was so fortunate. There's probably. They probably. Let's see what the next 10 years brings, right? And then maybe there's another story that's going to be worthy of telling. But
yeah,
to me, that was the highlight of my career. Yeah. And it's really hard for it to be above and beyond that. But we'll see. Awesome. I still have some time.
That's amazing.
Well, so what we're getting to the end here. Anything that you want to leave with our audience, Vincent, or anything you want them to follow, or any social media accounts, any plug you want to make out there? Or
God, it's funny. I think my two partners right now would yell at me if I didn't make this shameless plug.
Good, do it.
First off, so right now, my partner Porter Collins, who was also depicted in the movie, and myself. In addition to that, we have started to write a Substack with my other former partner, Danny Moses, who's also depicted in the movie, which is called What Are We Doing? So we're doing a podcast as well as a Substack, which is going to be a written product
Cool.
pretty much a blog of what we do every day.
Cool.
And what we're really trying to do is provide content to normal retail folk at a very cheap price. And because we're different, like we're not really talking about what do you do with the S&P 500. We're actually heat seeking where the market inefficiencies really lie, which is the 480 or 1,000 other names that are outside what is discussed on CNBC every day. And quite frankly, what everyone owns, because we see opportunities there, and that's where we play. So we're hoping to provide that and see if we have willing subscribers who will enjoy our journey of making fun of each other, entertaining each other, as well as writing on stuff that we are invested in.
So what's the name of the podcast?
It's called What Are We Doing?
What Are We Doing?
WAWD. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And you can find me. I troll a lot on Twitter or X or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And my handle is VD, as in Vincent Daniel 718, which is the area.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'm going to follow you right after this. And what about the Substack?
The Substack is called What Are We Doing? Or
Same thing. Okay, good, perfect.
And if you get me on Twitter, you will see. I haven't put it yet up on my headlines. I need to do that. I'm such a bad marketer. Terrible. But you could follow me, and you would find it.
So I'll include all that when I do the description of this episode before we promote it, and we'll put it out there.
Awesome.
I'm sure everybody listening is going to want to keep following you. You're a great, great, great guest. Bob, thank you for introducing Vincent to us.
All right. It was so
awesome.
great meeting you.
Great meeting you guys.
Great meeting you, Vincent. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
And we hope everybody enjoyed
so
our
much.
series. Yep. And we'll see you on our next episode of LASquared.
And have a great rest of the weekend. Have a great Labor Day weekend.
You too.